Welcome to today's Busy webinar. Today we're going to talk about once is not enough, setting a continual improvement process for your website. This is a new way of thinking about web design, and I want to take a few moments just to talk about how different all of this is, and the fact that if you're doing web design, you need to be thinking about how your website is going to evolve in the future. A lot of times web design will just happen and it's a point in time, and it's so painful for clients of ours and of any web design company that they never want to look at it again. And then what happens is a couple of years will go by and everyone just kind of gets so frustrated with their website that they decide that they need to redo it. And so this is a different way. And as a bit of a programming note, we are charging for today's webinar, and this is one of the things that we're doing to help support the community. One of the things that we're super excited about is one of our clients is the Randy Shaver Cancer Research and Community Fund, and so all proceeds from today's event will go to that fund. So you can visit randyshavercancerfund.org for more information on that fantastic organization. BizzyWeb helps manage that website, and so we are very excited to help them out, and thank you for your support today. A little bit about us before we get into too much detail. BizzyWeb is a digital marketing agency based in Minneapolis, Minnesota, technically a suburb, Champlin, and we have a fantastic team of folks who help with digital marketing, lead generation, content development, of course, user-centered and growth-driven web design, and then advertising, inbound marketing, and all of the things that we need to do to help our clients grow their businesses online. You might be wondering a little bit about the man behind the curtain, so I am going to quick stop screen sharing and give you a sneak peek behind the curtain. Hi, everybody. This is Dave Meyer with BizzyWeb, and this is us, and this is what we do, and we love connecting with our clients, and we love helping them grow their businesses using tools like user-centered design, traditional web design, and of course, digital marketing and inbound marketing. So as we talk about all of those things, we're going to talk through how each of those elements in building a smart website is going to help you grow your business instead of being a source of constant frustration. We do use WordPress as the tool that we prefer, and we integrate WordPress oftentimes, and especially for user-centered design / growth-driven design, with HubSpot, which is a fantastic inbound and growth marketing tool that we love to help our clients help grow their businesses. All right, let's get back to our regularly scheduled screen share. If you have questions during today's event, you can also submit a question by sending an email, and that's going to be available via the link at right here, dave@bizzyweb.com. I have those on all of our slides, so don't feel like you need to jot that down right now, but go ahead and get a hold of me if you need something. And then everyone that did register today is going to receive a invitation to download a white paper that goes into much more detail on the process of user-centered and growth-driven design than I'm going to go into today, because this is intended to be an overview of the concepts. And so let's get started. All right, first, we're going to talk through today the fact that web design is broken, and I'm going to share some examples on how web design can be a frustrating example or experience for anyone that's trying to grow their business. We'll go through a new way, and that is growth-driven design and / user-centered design. BizzyWeb uses user-centered design and growth-driven design interchangeably. Growth-driven design was first coined by HubSpot, and they use that and have a free in-depth connection and or website at growthdrivendesign.com if you're interested in that. We're going to go through some best practices for GDD, and then we're going to talk about how to maintain your site and integrate it with sales and marketing to turn that web design or that website into a growth machine for your business. All right, so let's talk a little bit about how and why web design is broken. First, websites are really a snapshot in time. This is a space where you go through and everyone has the best of intentions and you build that wonderful website, and you probably leave it sit for a year and a half to 2 years. Over that time, your frustration with the website, the fact that that one thing isn't exactly right, or that your search engine optimization results, your rankings on Google are slowly diminishing because you're not updating your website as much as you need to. And so all of a sudden, or not even all of a sudden, after a year and a half, you decide that, you know what, we really need to redesign that website and get ourselves a brand new one that's going to require 301 redirects. It's going to require completely new content. It's going to require all of those information architecture items and wireframes and graphics and new licensing on your plugins and all of that wonderful stuff. And that process in general in the industry takes about 6 months. So over that 2-year span, you go through from having a new site to redesigning your site, and then you launch that new site. Well, then what happens with that new site? Everybody's happy. We have high fives all around the table. And then we get back to that space after probably a few months that the results start decreasing again. And for a lot of businesses, if they pull the rug out and if they don't do the proper reconfiguration of their website at redesign, they might see a sizable hit in their search engine optimization just from the fact that they redesign their website. If all of your links change and you don't tell Google where all of those old pages went, and if you blow up all of your optimization, all of your alt tags are different, your H tags, if you had them in the first place, aren't working, all of that stuff can give you negative impact, and it takes a while to recover from that if not done properly. So it's just a recipe for constant frustration. And you see this stepped approach really doesn't help our clients or help anyone when they're doing web design as much as just being thoughtful and progressive and maybe taking better baby steps on what the growth of your company and your organization should match. So as you look at the traditional process, we often ask our clients, how would you describe your last web design experience and what went right or wrong? And did the website get launched on time and on budget? And as we ask all of those questions, come out that this website process, this web building process, certainly in the traditional format, is a big pain. And so how can you do it better? How can you avoid that large upfront cost? A big website, you have to think about every permutation and every issue that might come up. And so you need to over-design that site. And typical websites can cost from $15,000 to $100,000 for an average size business. It's a big time and resource commitment. If websites take 6 months on average to build, sometimes longer, that process requires strategy meetings, content creation, approval of all the image architecture and all of the content that goes into that site. And you need to go through it and optimize it for every page, which leads you to being over budget. And it's not launched on time usually. And once you do get it launched, it's just not flexible. So we have a lot of folks, and we get a ton of clients from people that have been through the traditional web design process, and they're simply so frustrated with their old site that they can't stand it anymore and they go on. But we can see it in their eyes. They simply don't look forward to the web design process. So how do you make a web design easier and more effective? Well, that's why we propose using something called growth-driven design or user-centered design. User-centered design allows you to minimize the challenges of connecting and building a new marketing tool. And instead of redesigning a single website and having to come up with a massive overview and a huge project that has hundreds of pages and lots of content, what we focus on is a fast launch. And so what normally takes up to 6 months, we can do in 30 to 60 days. And so if you look at that Launchpad website, which is the 80% of things that you can do inside of that 20% of time, then you focus on just the stuff that's most important. And then from there, you take baby steps to improve your results and your return every month over time. So as you look at the connections or at the traditional process, which is in blue on this site, you know, that 1.5 to 2 years, you can really see the lost productivity of your website in the gap that's highlighted in gold. If you launch a Launchpad website immediately and you're continually improving it, your results are going to get a little bit better every single month. You're going to learn from what's not working, and you're going to set hypotheses for what should be working and what you want to do. And I'm going to go into much more detail on how all of this works, but you can obviously see that that process of baby steps over time after a Launchpad website can be incredibly helpful because you go to market faster with your website and your website continually improves. Boosting over that is when you add marketing and sales on top of it. And so when you're integrating your marketing and you're doing ad campaigns or search engine optimization, SEO strategies on top of your website design, that ramps up the results even further. So your return is much better. You can drive traffic to specific pages, and the feedback loop is much, much faster if you're driving marketing to your website than if you're just using it in a vacuum. And so if you publish a new content page on your website, if you just wait for Google's algorithms to pick up that content, your overall optimization, the ranking on your website can take up to 6 months to fully take hold. If you take an entirely new website or a new content strategy and start publishing regular content, it might take up to that long. With marketing, with a small ad revenue or a small ad budget, you can drive traffic and do A/B testing to see which headlines, which kinds of content, and what kind of information is going to be the most helpful and useful for you and for your business. It helps you to learn faster. And then you can also optimize your calls to action. The calls to action are the buttons on your website that get every visitor to the next step in your marketing or sales process. And while I'm talking about the marketing and sales process, I want to mention that that is changing too. And that's another reason to stay up to date with your website design. In the olden days, as of like a year ago or a few months ago, we all thought of marketing as a funnel. So you would market as much as you possibly could. You would put out broadcast messages, do traditional media, anything that you could to dump as many prospects into your process, into your funnel. And then if those folks interacted with you in some way, a fewer of those would get directed into sales, and then sales would work through them, and fewer of their leads or their contacts or deals would get converted into customers. If you look at the metaphor of a funnel, there's one obvious problem with that funnel. When you dump things into the top of a funnel, the result is that slightly fewer things are going to pop out the bottom, but then they're just gone forever. And so now we're thinking of marketing more as a flywheel. And so, of course, there are going to be funneled information. You're going to have more people go in at each of these sessions or each of these parts of your marketing process. But your CRM, which would hand out in the middle or hang out in the middle of this flywheel, is the hook upon which everything else works. And then your marketing informs your sales, informs your service, which informs your marketing, and the virtuous circle repeats. And so you want to think about how can you deepen every reaction and every relationship? How can you improve every single part of your marketing? How can you use a tool like user-centered design or growth-driven design to keep driving additional customers via improved service, marketing, and sales? And everyone's flywheel is going to look a little bit different, right? So as we move from strangers to prospects to customers to promoters to integrating and having them connect with more strangers, that's going to move through delight, attract, and engage as a process. You can see how there's a lot of opportunities for thinking in a holistic manner and thinking about how the next interaction that you have with each of your customers, each of your prospects, should get them to another stage in your marketing life cycle. And the truth is, and the fun part for most of us, is that customers can find you at any stage inside of this flywheel. What you're trying to do is add rotational mass, so do more things inside of your marketing that would be likely to keep it sticky and to keep people thinking about you. So keep adding value, keep adding more connections, keep adding helpful information that's going to deeper connect or more deeply connect with your customers. As well, you're going to add speed to that flywheel by getting content out there more quickly and getting content out maybe via an advertising push so that you're hitting people at exactly the right time, with exactly the right message, in exactly the right place. So as that flywheel continues to pick up speed and momentum, your marketing turns from a point in time and something that you have to keep solving over and over again to a self-feeding kind of rotational mass and energy transferring tool. It's less of a having to keep feeding it and more of a keep building and keep growing and keep nurturing. And this all sounds kind of heady, but it'll make more sense once we get into some of the processes inside of growth-driven design. One of the key things that you need to know when you're building an audience is who that audience is. So one of the key things that we'll always focus on knowing inside of the UCD or GDD process is knowing who your customers are. We identify those through buyer personas. And a persona is really a fictionalized version of your best 5 or 6 customers, perhaps in 2 or 3 different business lines or different types of integrations that you do. You know, you might have a commercial and a residential side of your business if you're in construction. You might have an entrepreneur and a established business audience if you're an accountant or some other business service provider. And so you need to think about, who those best customers are, the ones that when they call, it's going to be a great call instead of hitting ignore on that phone call, right? You know who's going to give you the most revenue and who's the most delightful to work with. If you could get 5 more of these kinds of people every month or every year, it would make a world of difference for you. So you optimize for those people. And you can do this a number of ways. I like giving the name something alliterative and something that ties in to what that person is for your business. So in this case, property manager Paul is, of course, a property manager inside of his organization. And so that's who we're trying to reach. You can also just give them regular old names like Susan McGuire or Sarah Anderson. But the goal is to identify all of their demographics. Who are they? How old are they? What do they do for a living? And what does success look like in their job so that you can help and start making those folks more successful and giving them the tools that they need to take the right steps in order to grow their professional lives by working with you. And so once you do that, you can almost start every piece of marketing, every web page as a letter to Dear Sarah or Dear Susan or Dear Property Manager Paul. And so as you think about those folks, make sure that you're always driving toward what their needs and what they are interested in. So let's look at the life cycle inside of lead generation, because this is going to inform the growth-driven design website process. Your goal is to move people, again, from strangers to promoters. And then those promoters are going to recommend more strangers. And then you're all the way through that process again. So again, we're back into flywheel world where people keep connecting and you keep keeping customers and growing relationships and having them help you draw more customers in. So as you look at attracting people, your website needs to include a blog, content that's regularly updated, that's keyword rich, and that is designed as problem solvers for your for your marketing personas. You're looking at not who your business is and what you are, but what you are for your customers and providing them tips, tricks, strategies, tools to know that you're the expert they should work with and to help them make good decisions on what your business can do for them. So if you're a plumber, you're going to provide helpful information and details on how to know when you're going to be the person to call. If you don't want to do a specific kind of business and you'd rather that people or your customer base took care of that themselves, you can give them a handy tutorial that would help them figure out how to publish or post information or do whatever you do at that basic stage, so that as soon as they know, or as soon as they get in over their head, they know to call you. So your keywords on your website and social publishing is designed to attract your clients, turn them from strangers into visitors. From visitor, you're going to convert them, and those are via landing pages. Your landing pages have to have clear calls to action on them that largely include forms to get the minimum amount of information necessary in order to get them to the next step in your process. So you're probably having them fill out a form with at least their name and their email address so that you can keep sending them more information. And maybe they download that white paper, or maybe they attend that next event of yours, or maybe they connect with you in some way. That's when you start handing things off into your sales team, and they become, from visitors, they turn into leads. This is where your CRM, your customer relationship management database, comes in. Incidentally, HubSpot has a free CRM, and talk to me if you have, or if you need help with that. But inside of your customer relationship management database, your sales team knows what people are doing on your website, what steps they've taken. Have they downloaded a white paper? Are they interested? Have they checked out pages on your website, and what are they doing? And have they responded to emails that you've sent them? You can put that into workflows so that based on their response, they're already going to tell you what they're interested in, what you should be talking to them about, and what that common sense, helpful next step can be. That moves them, of course, into customers. And then from customers to promoters, you're going to continue to delight those people, helping them with a little bit more. Things like today's event that I'm doing for our customers is designed to help you figure out what you need to do in order to market better. And so our BizzyWebinar series has been intended for the past 5 years on how to market your company better. You can do surveys to find out how you can better connect with your customers and what they want. You can run smart content or monitor on your social media channels to have interesting outreach with your customers and to wish them a happy birthday or connect with them, or if they post something on their LinkedIn profile, you can congratulate them and say hello. So that's, again, feeding the entire process. And so let's talk about what growth-driven design includes. First, with growth-driven design, you move through a strategy. If you don't set a strategy inside of any web design process, you're massively missing the boat. So you need to set up a helpful overview of where you're at. That includes setting up your goals for your business. And of course, your goals need to be smart, specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-based. And you need to think about what's really helpful or what's really important for your business. You don't just need more visits on your website. You need more form fills and more content to transfer into leads that your sales team can connect with. So think about what the ultimate goal of your organization is. For a lot of businesses, it's probably to make more money or to make more sales. And then keep stepping backward until you get to a spot in your sales or marketing process where there's a physical action that you need people to take. Is it downloading a form? Is it giving you a call? Is it stopping by your brick and mortar store? Or is it simply connecting up or reading a white paper? And then think about those jobs, and you outline that in a strategy, and that informs your best shot at getting something out as quickly as possible, and that's the Launchpad website. Your Launchpad website is simply the absolute essentials that need to go out in your first iteration of your website. The Launchpad process is why web design inside of a growth-driven design process takes so much less time, because you don't have to build for every permutation or every possible thing that a customer would need. You simply say, okay, well, 80% of our business comes from this thing, so I'm going to focus on that. And then you move forward from there. And then you move forward into continuous improvement. So after you have a website out that's dramatically better than the one that you had before anyway, then you can move through from planning to building more, learning what happened over that period, usually a month, and then transferring that knowledge into another plan. Again, you're seeing a cycle, a circle, a flywheel. So we move from establishing content, and these are the phases of growth-driven design. As you get better with your continuous improvement, or as you get deeper, you have meatier problems to solve. So the first 3 months of most of our client or most of our user-centered design clients' arrangements are in the establish phase. So we try to harvest additional information and get more leads into our websites. And then we focus on who those audience members are and target the personas that we're trying to reach and add additional value. So you're trying to establish a baseline. After you have that, you're going to optimize for usability, making sure that people can get to the content that they're looking for in the fewest amount of clicks. Customer relationship optimization, finding out how you can best serve those people, and personalizing that content so that when people visit the site, it feels like it's written for them instead of just a generic piece of content. So you start to optimize and start to think about, who is Project Manager Pete? And what does Pete need in his daily life? And how can we give him that answer to that common question that we know Pete's thinking or that Pete needs to be successful in his job? After you've optimized, you're going to expand. And so we're going to look at additional products, the journey that your customer takes. So starting to look at that flywheel and say, okay, well, what's next for our customer and what else can we do? And then maybe focusing on teams and how other people inside of your target market could benefit from your content. And all of these can happen simultaneously, but you need to think about and bucket the content and the work that you're doing in a continuous and thoughtful way. So as continuous improvement moves forward, of course, you're going to build out that Launchpad site. You're going to look at the performance of the site and how it's meeting the goals, or is there a gap? And then you focus on a plan for that gap. You might need to do more research and get input from marketing and sales. And then you keep prioritizing and you figure out, okay, well, we have 17 things that we'd like to do to the website before the end of the year. So what are the 3 things that are most important for our results right now? And you keep focusing on the most important content and the most important improvements and working on the rest as available. When you're looking at ways to improve the areas of focus on your site, generally, we've found that you want to either boost conversion, improve user experience, personalize the website, or build more marketing assets. So as you look at conversions, of course, better landing pages, better content, testing value propositions for your customers, you assume that your customer needs this piece of content. Are they actually downloading it? Do they find it helpful? Do they find it interesting? Do they call you after they fill out that form or after they get that event? And doing A/B testing as necessary. So boosting that conversion. For your user experience, looking at the entire website as a whole and thinking, okay, from a mobile design website and from a standard site, how is that navigation working? Do I have to take too many clicks to get to that most important piece of content? What are the roadblocks and the barriers to what I'm doing in order to grow my business? You might be looking at your blog layout, what the content is inside of that. Do you need breadcrumb navigation to get people back so that they can find more information relevant or helpful to what you're talking about in that post? User experience improvements and user interface. And then, of course, as the mobile site comes forward, mobile is now the most prominent way that people interact with websites, period. It's around 60% of all Google traffic right now comes through mobile devices, and it's expected that that's going to be up to 80% by the end of next year. You want to personalize to the user with calls to action, specific to that person, offering them content, tailoring their content based on what they're actually interested in, and maybe even targeting down to where they live or who they are. And then your marketing assets, such as the tools that you use to manage your content, maybe upgrading your CRM, maybe doing additional content, looking at your Google Analytics at marketingplatform.google.com, directories and listings, or any other search engine optimization assets like downloadable documents, imagery on your website, tag manager content, so grouping content together into specific items, can all be incredibly helpful in growing your business. How long does all this take? Well, in general, the strategy takes about 30 days. The Launchpad site should take about 30 to 90 days. Generally, we're finding that it takes about 60 days to get it live. It really depends on how connected our clients are with the process. And then again, you go through that continuous improvement process every single month. So you're going to plan, develop, learn, and transfer that knowledge as you move through the process. And then once a year, we sit down with our clients and we reset the goals to say, okay, are we still where we thought we were? What we assumed inside of our overall strategy, is that still valid? And a lot of times, especially if we're on a rapid development cycle, we will break other meetings into quarterly sessions that are a little bit deeper dives into content and the next steps. But every single month in a user-centered design or growth-driven design process, we have a meeting with our clients to figure out what's coming up next and what fits into those plan, develop, learn, and transfer phases. It's all a process. You can get your website up much faster with the Launchpad site, and then you continually improve that site instead of getting more frustrated with it. And so as we look forward on that, it's really a life cycle for your marketing. So as we move from awareness to advocacy, which is the same from driving visitors to having them be customer advocates, right? You're doing different things for your content. And this is where marketing also fits in. So you might have public relations and word of mouth and online ads that all drive content together. You might move people from awareness to consideration over social ads, reviews, your media, and then the purchase through your store, through your website, through getting calls or connections through your online assets into your CRM so that your sales team can connect with them. Offering frequently asked questions, content, surveys, all help boost retention. And then specific member or customer promotions, blog posts that are designed to help deepen relationships, social networking, and even your monthly newsletter can help build advocates. So it's an entire universe of work that you can do. And instead of just building a website, hoping for the best and talking to me in 2 years, you're much more proactive inside of a user-centered design and growth-driven design process. You need to measure, track your results, and show your return on investment. And that's every step inside of the flywheel for your marketing, is how you can build that and how you can prove to your management or to your customers how you're dedicated to helping improve their experience, growing with them, and building more connections. That's what I have for today. So thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you do have additional questions or want to talk more about the UCD process, you can download our white paper. And if you registered, and you have registered if you are here today, you're going to get an email with a link to download the white paper that goes into a lot more detail and has even prettier graphs than the ones that I presented today. Just either send me an email or respond to the email that you're going to get. Thank you for supporting the Randy Shaver Cancer Research Fund today. And your donation of $10 for watching today's event is going directly to them. There's no, we dedicate 100% of the proceeds to one customer every month, or to one useful cause or helpful cause every single month. So keep your eyes peeled for the next BizzyWebinar. We're only doing these monthly now. We're dedicating all of the proceeds to our partners that are helping to make the world a better place. Thank you so much for your time and attention. I'll leave you with that. And if you do have more questions, again, go ahead and get a hold of me at dave@BizzyWeb.com or give us a call. Again, I'm Dave at BizzyWeb, and I hope this helped you generate buzz without getting stung. Have a great day.